Welcome everybody, Kelly here. Today we're in my shop. I got my 3rd gen 4Runner chilling here behind me. We're going to look at the rear suspension basically. We're going to look at doing some Opt-Offroad rear trailing arms. We're going to look at doing the Durobump Stops, and we're also going to have a look at the flex and see where we got any rubbing concerns. So stay tuned. All right, so here's the truck here. It is sitting on some Toyo AT3s. We have some 17-inch 285/75 17s. So these are about 34s. So we got about 3 inches of lift on here. And anyways, we're gonna be concentrating on the rear today. So these 34s, they definitely wanna rub. At flex, we're gonna be contacting in here. We're gonna be building a rear bumper soon anyways, but we're gonna have a look at that, and we're gonna install some Durobump Stops, and we're gonna see if that's gonna help limit some of the travel and get the clearance right for us there. So one of the things that I'm hoping to do, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get it in this video or not, these tires are coming off this guy. So we got the Tacoma back here. So this guy is getting some 35s very soon. I got the C4 clearance kit and whatnot. So on here we have some Toyo MTs on here, and these are in 295/7017. Have a look at those bad guys. Anyways, hoping to swap those out. So we'll see. It's getting late tonight. I'm gonna be doing these trailing arms and obviously filming, so we'll see if we can get those done, but anyways, let's get going. Okay, so we're underneath my truck here. In order to achieve full flex, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna quickly pop these shock bolts off on both sides, and I'm gonna quickly remove the springs on either side. That way we'll be completely uninterrupted to flex this thing all the way. We'll have a look and see where the flex ends up. That right there is the factory bump stop there. So we're gonna put some Duro bumps in there. They're at least twice as long. That will limit the travel at the end and hopefully help out with some of the rubbing, because we don't want to over flex that. Anyways, let's have a go. So the rear springs that are running in here is the OME 891s. I believe these are a 2-inch heavy duty spring. Can't quite remember. I'll have to have a look in the catalog and see. So, but I'm pretty sure that's what these ones are. Anyways, that is the number that I'm running, is the 891s. Okay, so we got this thing completely flexed. So let's have a look here. So what you're gonna see here is right along here, this is pretty good. There's nothing really bad there. The rear, I have this trim obviously removed already. So if you have yours, it may be rubbing on there. That's why I have mine taken off. What you're gonna see, I don't know if you can see right up in there, the metal is slightly just behind there, so you could roll that under with a little bit of a hammer or a mallet, and you'd be pretty good. You can see, if you can see right up in there. So that's pretty good. And this thing's at full flex right now. We're gonna probably take a little bit out of the way actually, so it's probably a bit further than what it actually should be. So what we'll have a look here is factory bump stop is right there. Obviously we're going to be putting in those Duro bump stops. They're going to be quite a bit bigger. The other thing we're not considering also is coil bind. We're probably past that. If the coil was in place, I highly doubt we would be going this deep. You can see the factory other stop there is basically right at the end. So basically I forced this thing into over travel. Anyways, let's throw in these bump stops and we'll have a look at that again. Well, for what it's worth, I forced the right side up as well. Figured I'd have a look. This side definitely contacts more. So I don't know if the left to right, if the axle is not centered as much. I do have an M. Keith Panhard correction kit in here. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's pulling the axle one way or the other, depending on which way. But you can definitely see this one does not slip past, it rubs. That being said, I highly doubt we're gonna be forcing it up this far anyways, but it's just good to know. Along here looks pretty good. Along here also looks pretty good. It's just the very tippy top right in there. Let's take a quick look at these Duro bump stops here. So this is the kit that I'm gonna be putting in the rear. We have, what is that? DBR 525. So I believe that's 5 1/4 inches is what that stands for, I believe. So these are almost twice as long as the stock ones, but these are the ones we're gonna be putting in the fronts. We have DBF 24R, so we'll get to that later. Maybe we might not even catch it in this video, but either way, these are the ones that are going in the front. So these are the rears. These are the sweet Opt-Offroad links that we're going to be installing. These things are serious. You're not going to have any troubles with these. These are going to be very, very strong. The logo that's etched into these, pretty badass. That's pretty cool. Some Johnny joints on the end here, greasable, adjustable, and here's the uppers. So anyways, let's have a look at the truck here. So we ran into a little bit of a problem, something you should definitely consider, but you know, I didn't think about how bad it was going to be exactly. The bolt goes right up in the center, right up in there. So there's a 12 mil, I believe, up in there. But obviously being an old vehicle, slightly rusty, look at that bolt down in there. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, right down in there. That guy is rusty. This is gonna be a problem. Hopefully we don't break these off. I would say, yeah, try your best. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna wire brush the end of this and clean this up as much as possible. Then we'll throw some penetrating fluid on it, soak it. You know, if you live in my kind of area, you know, I would say soak it multiple days if you're gonna try and pull these out, because if this breaks, it's gonna suck. If that doesn't work, I'll throw some heat in there, see if I can get the torch and heat that up inside of there. Well, I can't believe it. Those bolts came out. They were looking pretty bad. They came out, spending a little bit of extra time to, you know, lubricate them, and do it by hand. Don't use you know, air impact or electric impact, because you'll have no feeling. You'll probably just snap it right off. Doing it by hand, you can get a feel. If it's gonna break, then you can apply heat. 12 mil, just like the factory bolt, so that's kind of nice. We will need a longer extension. That way we can get up in there. And there we go. All right, so I've installed both of the bump stops. So that's what she looks like there, installed, and it's gonna come down, touch there, and same thing on that one. That one's also installed. So I'm gonna quickly flex this out just on the one side. That was the worst one. We'll see how that looks. Okay, so I've compressed the suspension, and there is obviously a huge noticeable difference. You can basically see we got a couple of fingers worth of space there. So we basically have eliminated the rubbing. We have limited the travel by a little bit, but not really. What we were seeing before wasn't really usable travel. Let's have a quick look. The side's a little bit tighter. But there you can see. So what I've done is I've compressed the suspension all the way up into the bump stop and then forced it into the bump stop a little bit. So that would probably be where end travel would be. Obviously, if you overflex it and you start rubbing your tires badly, you can damage your tires, damage your suspension, and you know we don't want to do that, obviously. So yeah, these are going to be a really nice addition to keep the rear suspension safe. The one thing that most people are missing and most people skip out on. Well, we got those Durobumps installed. I got the springs back in, got the shocks all connected. Let's move on to the trailing arms. Now for the trailing arms, I'm not gonna show you, too much of a step-by-step. It's, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's just unbolt the bolts, install them, set the lengths in, and install them. Let me just give you a quick couple tips. Okay, so tip number one, just like we did with the bump stops, make sure you clean all the ends of your bolts, wire brush them, and hit them with some penetrating fluid. Do that on both sides. So here's our lowers, pretty obviously, bolt, bolt. Take your time, undo those, replace it, and same thing on this side. Clean, undo, clean, undo. For the uppers, it's pretty much the same thing. Bolt there, and another bolt there. There is no provision on the arms for the ABS sensor wire, so you're gonna have to just make your own there. And same thing for this one there. There she is, right up to the top. It's pretty, honestly, it's not that hard. The one thing I would say for sure, do one link at a time. Undo it, get it installed, then do another one, because the differential probably gonna shift on you a little bit, and you're gonna have a little bit of hard time getting the bolts back in. You can pry it, pull it, use a strap, do whatever you can. Make sure you line that up, but do it one at a time. One other thing you can do is, obviously if you're on the ground, is jack up the rear end a little bit, lower it down, kind of move it up and down, just so you can change the length and the height a little bit. That will help you get the bolts installed. So anyways, I'm on it. Okay, so I just pulled the first control arm out. One thing that happens with these 4Runners, if you don't know, obviously frame rust is a big deal. These lower mounts rust off from the frame. So while you have your arm out, good chance to get up in there and look and just sort of see if you have any problems occurring, because normally you can never see in here. Usually you're going to be able to tell from the outside anyways. It'll look pretty suspect. Obviously mine has some surface rust, but none of this is like detrimental yet anyways. So yeah, good tip. Okay, so here's the arms. Obviously, those are the ones I showed them earlier. These are what we're gonna be replacing them with. And there's our factory ones. Obviously, just huge difference. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna take a tape measure and we're just gonna go across basically eye to eye and get this measurement. And then we'll set these to that measurement as well. So basically just eye to eye, so they're the same length, and then we'll go ahead and we'll install that. All right, so we're gonna pick this up tomorrow. It's late, it's almost 11 o'clock. I've been here for like 15 hours. I worked all day today. So we're gonna wrap this up. It'll give me a chance to drive this thing. I'll report back tomorrow, tell you about how the feel with the control arms and all that feels in the back. Also tomorrow, we're gonna quickly swap out these ATs and we're gonna put the MTs off the Tacoma. So anyways, we'll catch you tomorrow. Well, welcome back. It's the next day, back in the shop here. We're gonna be doing this tire swap. I won't bore you with that too much, but I will do a quick comparison of the ATs and the MTs. So stay tuned if you wanna see that. Also, stay tuned at the end of the video. I will share with you the 3 things that I noticed now that I swapped into those trailing arms. And you know what I noticed on the road. So stay tuned, let's go. All right, well there we go. We got all the tires off the vehicles and let's do a quick comparison. So on the left here we got AT3s and on the right we got the MTs. So one thing I'm going to point out first of all is the size. So these are a 285 75 17. These are a 295 70 17. And in reality, oh man, they're so close, it's hard to barely even tell the difference. So at the top, say these are maybe a 1/4 inch taller. You can just barely see it. So even from this side, you kind of get that perspective there. Just barely taller. And then one thing, the 295s, also just a hair wider, but they're really close. AT3 obviously a more tighter block. We got the more siping micro cuts, and then obviously the MT we have much more open, wider block and less cuts in the tire. From what I understand is the more edging that we have here is what's going to make it better here for the snow, and then obviously with the cuts as well. So this is basically what's going to give us our 3 Peak Mountain Snowflake rating, and that's why these ones do not. I'm not sure the compound, I didn't actually check that, but anyways, there's a quick comparison. You can see what those look like. Okay, so this is something I see online a lot, and that's people picking up tires differently. Now, I've called a couple people out online for doing it wrong. Not that I think I know everything, but I have lifted thousands of tires over my career. And this is the way that I find the easiest way, especially if you're not like a giant dude. So obviously if you're like super jacked or whatever, you could just probably pick it up, but this is the easiest way. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna grab the tire at the top, and we're gonna roll it towards us. At the same time as that, we're gonna put our knee down and we're gonna get it up, and then we're gonna use our knee to lift and roll, and then we're gonna grab it and hook like that. You know, this thing probably weighs close to 100 pounds. So yeah, it's pretty heavy. So this is what I find is the easiest way. So grab, roll, and placed up. We're not like bending over funny or doing any weird movement. I find this is the easiest. Grab, now we can line up the nuts. Away we go. Well, I've got the wheels and tires back on. I think the MTs look a little bit better, obviously more aggressive look, and we're heading out 4-wheeling tomorrow, so you know it's definitely going to make a difference there over the ATs. So let me share with you 3 things that I noticed about changing those trailing arms, control arms in the back when I was road testing it last night and today. So number 1, I've always had sort of when you're driving along, you come to a stop and your vehicle sort of does this little rock. There's a significant clunk. I've looked at the original arms before, and they seem to be fairly firm. but that had to have been it. The bushing must have a little bit of lateral movement in the rubber, and that is now gone. So that's a number one improvement right there. Number two, I definitely noticed, obviously a four-wheel drive truck doesn't handle too crazy, but you can kind of feel a little bit less squirm in the rear when you're sort of doing one of these down the road. So that's good. And number three, I have not noticed any increase in NVH, so noise, vibration, harshness. They're very smooth. I don't, you know, being the Johnny joints, you know, you think that maybe they could be very rough or clunky feeling, but no, they feel perfectly smooth, soft. Highly recommend. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this video. Please consider, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and do me even bigger favor, please consider watching one of my other videos. That will help me out a lot. So thanks so much. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.